Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's Westerville City School Board's regular session for February 8th of 2016. I'd like to call the board meeting to order. If I could call the roll, or have you call the roll, Bart, please.
Mrs. Cotter, Mrs. Davidson,
Here.
Dr. Nestor Baker,
Here.
Mr. Villardo,
Here.
Mr. Burden.
Here.
Just so a point, even though Mrs. Cotter is not here, I have been in contact with her, making sure she's up to speed on all the financial information and any way I can help her in her illness issues. So just so you know, she's not here tonight. She told me she wasn't going to be here tonight, but I am keeping her up to speed on the stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate that. If you could all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening again. A very exciting evening for our students and our staff and our community, as we will make a motion to approve and recognize the following student candidates for semester graduation from Westerville Central, Westerville North, and Westerville South high schools who have completed all local and state requirements. Would like to call the roll to recognize and approve those candidates, please. A motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Davidson,
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Cotter, Mr. Villardo,
Yes.
Mr. Byrd.
Yes. Dr. Kellogg?
Thank you, President Byrd. Members of the Board of Education, distinguished former and current faculty and staff, honored guests, and proud families of the graduates of Westerville Central, Westerville North, and Westerville South high schools. The state of Ohio establishes in law 2 requirements for earning a high school diploma: the successful completion of a rigorous academic curriculum and proficient competencies in 5 disciplines that comprise the Ohio graduation test. Ladies and gentlemen, seated before you are the young men and women who have now satisfied those requirements. The administration of Westerville City Schools has verified, and the Board of Education has unanimously approved their candidacy for graduation, and so it is with great pleasure as Superintendent of Westerville City Schools that I conferred each semester graduate a Westerville City Schools State of Ohio Diploma of Completion. So at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Scott Reeves, our Executive Director of Secondary Schools, to officially commence the ceremony and with the presentation of the semester graduates.
Thank you, Dr. Kellogg, President Byrd, members of the board. Today is always one of my favorite days because this is the culmination of everything that we've done with the young people here in Westerville from the time they were in diapers and taking their first steps, which parents remember like yesterday, to kindergarten and elementary plays, to middle schools and ball games and assemblies and everything. And when you look at the number of adults that are here to support our newest alumni, from board members to principals to teachers and staff members and mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles and grandparents and friends, there's a lot of folks here that have supported you on this journey, and let me be one of the first to say congratulations, and may I wish you well on your endeavors from this day forward as alumni of the Westerville City School System. And with that, Dr. Kellogg, if you and the board would come up and form a receiving line. And it is my honor to introduce the principal of Westerville Central High School, Mr. Todd Spinner, who will give his words of encouragement and call the roll of the graduates.
Dr. Kellogg, President Byrd, Vice President Villardo, members of the Board of Education, families, and guests. Tonight, I would like to congratulate all of our Warhawk, Warrior, and Wildcat graduates on behalf of the entire Westerville Central learning community. It is truly my privilege to stand before you this evening as the principal at Central High School and recognize the young people that are going to be receiving their diplomas this evening. There are many highlights and duties that I'm able to be a part of as the principal at Central High School, and being a part of graduation is right near those highlights and duties. These students have worked very hard to be here this evening and finish what they started many, many years ago. It did not happen by accident, and they were not alone in this journey. There are parents, grandparents, and teachers who along the way helped guide them and mentor these young people so they would one day be standing here and crossing the finish line. So to all of you that played a part in this special evening, congratulations as well. I would like to close by reading a simple but very appropriate quote for the occasion by former President Dwight D. Eisenhower. President Eisenhower said, "Accomplishment will prove to be a journey, not a destination." So do not make this the end, graduates. Make this another part of the journey and continue to do great things as you go forward. Once again, on behalf of the entire Warhawk learning community, congratulations, and I wish you the best of luck. And at this time, I would like to read the names of those that are graduating from the Westerville City Schools, but the Central students. First, Anthony Malik Arnold. Joshua Allen Howell. Roy Rodriguez. Once again, congratulations, graduates. And now it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce the principal of Westerville North High School, Mr. Kurt Yancey.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Yancey, and I am the principal at Westerville North High School. It is my pleasure to be able to publicly say congratulations to all of our graduates tonight and to wish you luck in all that you do from here. On behalf of the entire Westerville North learning community and all other district employees who have affected your life, please accept our congratulations for your accomplishment. We are all very proud of the Westerville Central Warhawks, Westerville North Warriors, and Westerville South Wildcats who are becoming alumni this evening. I encourage you from this point forward to continue to push yourself, to keep moving forward regardless of the obstacles you may face or the failures you will endure from here. Remember to treat failure or an obstacle as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to get better, an opportunity that will teach you how to succeed. This is a great life lesson to take with you as you move on to your next adventure, and I wish you the best of luck in the future. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the Westerville North High School graduates. First, we have Ken Lyle. Next, Shuit Kubriel. Sarah Joy Jefferson. Brian Arungu Nanjui. And finally, Christian Cardoso. Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Wildcat principal, Mr. Stephen Anderson.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome. I, too, offer my congratulations to all of our high school graduates tonight. In all of our years of doing autumn and winter graduations, this is the biggest group I've ever seen, and I think it suggests the greatest success that our students have had. Congratulations. From this point on, I want to encourage you to remain focused and purposeful in your life's work. Each age brings you something special that you won't achieve again once that time has passed. We hope you've enjoyed your high school years, but we hope you look forward to college, to career, and we hope that you feel ready to tackle the next challenges as Wildcat, Warrior, and Warhawk alumni. All right, let's welcome our new Wildcat graduates, Mr. Tyler Allen Burgandy. Brandon Wayne Fenton. Austin James John Hollingsworth. Bill Monroe Leslie II. Cameron Laura McLemore. Sean Douglas Mills. Simeon Alexander Sitton. And Lawrence David Wood. Mr. Reeves, back to you.
Once again, congratulations. Can we please give another round of applause to our newest Westerville graduate? Now, parents, family, friends, and graduates, you are more than welcome to stick around and support your elected officials. But if not, you are free to go and celebrate this day. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
Welcome back to tonight's board meeting. Every time we have a commencement ceremony, I have to say that that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, to sit in this seat for my fellow board members and for the staff, administration, and teachers. That's the culmination that we get excited about in every student's academic career. So very happy to celebrate that this evening. We need to move on to our business agenda. And for this evening, we need to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Education held on Monday, January the 25th of 2016. The approval does not require a vote, however, would make sure that nobody has any questions, concerns, or issues about those meeting minutes. Hearing none, we'll move to the next agenda item. We have reports 5.01. We have none this evening. And we move to public comments, agenda item 6.01. We have no one signed in for public comments for prior agenda items at this time. Move to financial, 7.01. No financial reports at this time. And we move to agenda item 8, 8.01 through 8.10, personnel consent agenda orders for February. And I believe Mark is going to come and give us a briefing.
Thank you, President Byrd, members of the board, Dr. Tombaugh. Lori's unable to be here tonight, so you're stuck with me, pinch hitting.
I'm not going to let that one go. Tombaugh was 2 superintendents ago.
Did I say Tombaugh?
Yes, you did.
Kellogg. Sorry. Everybody over here is just looking at me.
They're all giggling back there.
I was ready for the vote.
And
And I can make it worse.
I'd like more heads up than that. You know.
I was good with it.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Mark.
No, I'm glad you did. Thank you. Yes, I'm feeling older. Tonight's consent agenda, anyhow. Just to highlight a couple things. We do have on tonight's agenda an unpaid leave for maternity leave. We have some changes in classified personnel with some resignations. We have 2 classified retirements. And tonight you'll also see some supplemental contracts that are starting to come for the spring. along with an adjustment to an item the board had approved before in terms of a 1.0 FTE. We need to make that a 0.4 FTE. And some additional pupil activity programs. We have some one-time payments for 2 individuals who will be assisting with our hearing and vision screenings. Some temporary change of assignments in food service and custodial as people are out and people are covering those areas. It's not a heavy consent agenda, but that is the agenda for this evening.
Any comments or statements from the board? If not, I would like to take a moment to draw attention to a resignation, or pardon me, a retirement, and that would be Ron Duckworth's retirement. I have had the privilege to know Mr. Duckworth for a couple of years now, a true asset to Westerville City Schools. Just have thoroughly enjoyed spending time with him, and in losing Ron to retirement, he follows after his wife, who was also a treasure and an asset to the district, Sandra Bell Duckworth. And it has been a privilege, I believe, to have both teach and serve in this district. So it's always difficult when we lose great folks, but when they get to the point of retirement, they've certainly earned it. So I wish both of them well in their retirement years. With that being the case, if we can have a motion to approve the personnel consent order.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mr. Byrd?
Yes. Moving on to our next agenda item, our policy consents for 9.01 through 9.08 on the agenda. If I could have a motion, please. Or,
Well, I think,
let me withdraw
Let's-
my motion.
Well, you didn't move it, so you're okay.
yeah.
Dies for first and a second.
I would ask the board to vote in 2 chunks, or consider the policies in 2 chunks, 9.02 through 9.05, and then to consider 9.06, 7, and 8.
Any objections? If not, if we can forward a motion for consideration of 9.01 through 9.05 first,
So moved.
Second?
and if we could call the roll, please.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Byrd?
Yes. Dr. Kellogg, any comments that we need to follow up on from these final readings?
I don't believe so, Mr. Byrd. I think we've got, we went through some explanations last time through, so I think we're okay. Unless the board has
Excellent.
questions, we're good to go.
None at this time. So call the roll, please.
I need another motion for the second.
Another motion. Motion to approve, please.
So moved.
Okay.
Well, we did a motion and a roll call for the first 9.01 to
separate.
9.05. Oh, well, that motion was just to separate them, or that was?
Right,
got you.
just to separate.
That was Nancy's motion to separate, right?
That was just a motion to separate. In the past, we've just always separated them and done them.
Right.
But that's fine. So,
Okay.
so now you want this motion to be 9.01 to 9.05.
So allow me to withdraw my motion, forward a motion for consideration for 9.06, 9.07, and 9.08.
I move we postpone 9.06, 9.07, and 9.08.
I second that.
And everybody out there is going, what are these people doing? And why are they doing this? The food service policies that are listed contain a number of references and are predicated, the revised portions are predicated on guidelines from the federal government. And we are, or I am, I can't speak for anybody else, I am disturbed at the amount of federal intrusion into what can happen within the school day based on what foods can be served and what foods can be sold, at what times those foods can be sold. And I am concerned that the regulations significantly intrude into the abilities of our parents, booster groups, student groups, and so forth to engage in fundraising. I'm not concerned about the nutritional guidelines. What I'm concerned about is the federal overreach in the definition of the school day and the requirements on what may be sold when, by whom. And I would like for us to reach out to the state Department of Education and talk with the state about the possibility of fundraising exemptions. That has occurred in a number of states across the country. And it seems to me to be at least a somewhat better way to deal with what is to me federal intrusion. But at bottom, I am deeply concerned about continued reach of the federal government into the definition and disposal of the school day.
Any additional comments or statements? No. I would just add that it's very clear that, once again, we have a move from a federal government standpoint that isn't necessarily coordinated with the states. And in the case of the state of Ohio, I don't believe that there's been a full finalization of administrative law relative to what we can and cannot do at the local level. So I would agree for the motion to postpone as the best course of action so that more research and due diligence can be done.
I should make another point. This has nothing to do with the work of our district personnel. This is not about what was prepared and brought to me to read and to vote on. This is about what the federal government has chosen to do. Our district personnel did exactly what they need to do. So I don't want you to think that this is in any way suggesting that district personnel made a mistake. They did not.
It's a great clarification. Thanks for that, because there's just a sense where when we can establish more local, healthy input and influence, we would like to do that. And this seems to be an area where we think our influence and input is being somewhat circumvented.
Bart, if we can call the roll, please.
Dr. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mr. Byrd.
Yes. Next, we'll move on to agenda item 10.01, recommended action on old business. We have none this evening. Move to agenda item number 11, recommended action for new business. We have a first reading of reading of a new policy, a reading to delete a policy, and a reading to revise a policy. We do not vote on first reading, so no motion is necessary, but I believe we have a report.
Yes, good evening again. The first reading of policy 2260.02 is a new policy recommended for single-gender classes and activities. Provides policy support to single-gender classes or activities when doing so meets a couple of objectives: improving achievement and meeting particular identified educational needs. The policy does not apply to athletic programs which are gender-based. Currently, throughout secondary, and I believe I checked with my elementary counterpart, we do not have any single-gender classes being done at this point, but this policy would govern that if they wanted to give that a try.
Is this based on Title IX compliance?
It helps to regulate Title IX issues if we were to do that. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
And no, I'm not going to start yelling about federal overreach about this one. I have thoughts, but I'm not going to say anything.
We're selective.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. If we can move to the second reading, or pardon me, the first reading of the second policy deletion.
2423, the recommendation and reading would be a deletion of this policy. This policy was grounded for the School to Work Initiatives Act of 1994. That federal act has now expired, as has the funding, and so this policy is now null and void in terms of any federal action.
Any questions? If not, we'll move to the final first reading for revised policy.
And revised policy 5830 regarding fundraising. And it brings the policy in line with the USDA dietary guidelines with which we just spoke about. Fundraising items that involve food must meet the USDA dietary guidelines for Americans and the USDA Smart Snacks in School nutritional standards, as well as falls in line with policy 8550, competitive food sales, which has been tabled this evening.
So no candy bars. Right.
Brownies during the day.
I know, but those banned candy bars are delicious.
I expect you probably have ascertained how I'm going to feel about this particular policy.
Yes.
The revisions are my concern. The policy in the aggregate is not my concern. My concern is, once again, around those particular guidelines. It's really kind of silly to call them guidelines when they are mandatory in so many ways. But with this policy, just as with the others that were postponed, it would be good to see if there is any opportunity that the state is considering as regards exemptions for fundraisers. That has been one way of dealing with the issues in some other states. I don't know if it's possible in Ohio or not, but I do know that a policy like this significantly does infringe on the freedom of our students, our families, our booster groups within the schools.
Yeah, I would just add that I think one of the problems that I certainly experience in my line of work in the corporate sector is that when prescriptive guidelines are written, it always raises the question of, if you're going to enforce a standard and a requirement as a federal government, how exactly do you intend to police that? So I think it's interesting that there would be a promotion of a particular position, from the USDA with really no capability to monitor or manage that. It calls into question the credibility of the standard at the federal level to begin with. So, yeah, I think we've certainly stated how we feel about the need for local control on these subjects, but it is a first reading, so obviously we don't need to take a vote at this time. So, anything else for the good of the order? Mr. Reeves, thank you very much. Appreciate it. If we can move off into recommended action for standing business, agenda item 12.01. If I could have a motion to approve donations as presented, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions, please?
Just so very grateful for the donations.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I think we say every time, it goes without saying, but it really shouldn't go without saying. We are thrilled and honored that so many organizations and individuals support this district in so many ways, and financially is a critical way. So yes, we're very grateful.
I always look at Mr. Velardo because he's a better thanker on the board than anybody else.
Really good thing.
I know. So I just wait for it. Thank you. Excellent. So if we could call the roll, please.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson,
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Byrd.
Yes. Moving on to agenda item 12.02, a motion to approve the 2016 summer school schedule and fees.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, you can have it, Tracy.
Questions, concerns?
Just as a FYI, we did a presentation last board meeting. We intended to bring these at that time, but So this is a catch-up from last time. If you have questions, we're happy to answer them, but
I have one comment. Have we thought about having a full-day summer splash program for kiddos, so the parents at work, their kids can participate in them?
there was some discussion, and Vicki Gerald looked at it regarding providing some kind of childcare between the AM and PM session. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, no, I didn't think about that. I just didn't know if there was any opportunity of maybe a class in the morning and the afternoon, or some sort of enrichment opportunity, full day.
Can always look at expanding the program, yes. Yes, but we didn't put any in place for this year.
Just a quick question, and I don't think you'll know, but just to get out there, do we, before we put this out, obviously, we'll know all these to-be-determined dates, et cetera. Do we have any knowledge of the four-day coding workshop, grades 6 to 12 dates yet? Are you aware of anything? Right now, it's just to be determined. Do you know? Anybody know? All right.
Not sure.
I just think it's an awesome thing to do and would love to get that out, those dates out as quickly as we can.
Hearing no other questions, so we can call the roll, please.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson,
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Byrd.
Yes. Moving to agenda item 12.03, a motion to approve overnight and out-of-state field trips.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, please call the roll, Bart.
Dr. Nestor Baker.
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mr. Byrd.
Yes. Moving to agenda item 13.01, at the conclusion of the business agenda, interested persons may comment on any subject. Each person shall be allotted 5 minutes to make comments or remarks at this time with no restriction on the number of speakers. We do have a person that has asked to take the podium and make public comments this evening, Mia Hoffman. Please. And welcome to tonight's board meeting.
So we're here to talk about the locker room situation at North. For those of you that don't know, 3 years ago, the women's auxiliary locker room was given to the boys' varsity basketball team for their use during the winter season. This is still in effect currently. The boys' usage of a female designated locker room breaks Title IX by having the boys have 4 locker rooms, the main one, which is a double locker room, and the 2 auxiliary locker rooms, while the girls only have 1 locker room. This is not only a Title IX violation, but also a safety concern. Girls currently change in the bathrooms and in their cars. Also, this increases the possibility of personal belongings being stolen because they are not locked up. One of the biggest issues this has caused is that the guys, students and coaches, think that the locker room is a boys' locker room, and so will enter it while we are in there. We should not have to worry about guys walking into the girls' locker room while we are in there or changing. We would like this problem to be resolved for female students' safety and convenience. And we also ask that there will be no retaliation against North's track or cross-country teams.
Excellent, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Any questions?
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Moving to agenda item 14.01, board comments for this evening.
Appreciate it if you'd let us know what you find out about that situation.
I do know that the school, we originally received a letter from the young ladies, me and several other young ladies who bought that Ford to us, turned it over to school for an investigation. They've done that. I got an email from Mr. Yancey, or copied an email from Mr. Yancey today from one of the individuals who would contact them. They've done an internal review and are prepared to make some changes moving forward. The problem is complicated because every season, different sports, different genders, but my sense from what I got from Mr. Yancey is we're headed towards a good solution. So I appreciate the young ladies bringing it to our attention so we can do that.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Go.
Oh. Thank you for bringing that our attention, and I'm particularly interested in your last couple sentences, that there be no retaliation or ill effects of that. I would like to hear about that. As always, we are just really honored by the graduation process, and I know they're all gone and eating and partying and celebrating, but I personally want to not only congratulate the graduates, but really the families and the staff and teachers that have brought them to this place. The one highlight I have, you're going to talk about the bowling. The Westerville Education Foundation Bowl-a-thon is this Saturday.
February 13th at the Columbus Square Bowling Palace.
Okay. The reason I'm citing that specifically is because I just want to make sure the sign above State Street says the 20th. So it is the 13th, this coming Saturday. So really, for the thousands of people that will watch this, I want to make sure that they know that it is this coming Saturday, and as a tremendous Westerville-wide event, and really would encourage you to attend there. Also, just very important that February, Black History Month, we want to highlight that. There are a number of tremendous activities, programs throughout our school district, many of our schools. And so we just really honor the programs that will be occurring and would appreciate you all just supporting that and recognizing that we do better when we recognize each other's uniqueness. And this is one of the ways that the Westerville City Schools recognizes the uniqueness as a part of our population. So there will be programs throughout the schools throughout this month. So please take note of that. Thank you.
Just real quick, I want to congratulate the graduates this evening. It was very touching tonight. I don't know, it felt different for some reason, just the pride and all the people that came to support those kiddos. So congratulations, and we can't wait to see what happens. Want to thank our speaker tonight. Ladies, thank you for joining us and having the courage to stand up. We appreciate it. One last thing, big week for our school district, and please check the website. I don't have the dates in front of me, but we have High School 101, and we have our Kindergarten 101 programs this week. So lots of good things going on and great information out there, so check the website for those dates. That's it. Thank you.
It is that time of year when we have High School 101, we have Kindergarten 101, we have all of these wonderful things that are happening now to prepare for the coming school year and the years to follow that. And I wanted to take just a second and say how exciting it was that we had such an incredibly full house for the IB information night. I'm very pleased to see that as families from all across the district come to find out about that program and determine if that is the fit for their sons and daughters. It's a great time to be part of Westerville Schools with IB, with kindergarten, with high school, with the Education Foundation, with an incredible graduation tonight, and that was so exciting. It is a great time to be part of Westerville, and it's a great time for our parents and our kids to be finding the right niche for them.
Well, as we finish up with the public portion of this session, I would say that I'm thankful to my fellow board members as well as the community and the vast number of watchers that as I continue to settle into the seat and learn when motions need to be called and not called, that people exercise a little bit of grace. It takes a little bit of time. Anybody that's sat in the president's seat knows that, and I expect to get it right around month 11. So thanks to everyone for the patience as we've settled in. We anticipate I had mentioned last board meeting, we anticipated announcing liaison positions. We're going to postpone that for one more meeting and bring that forward at the next meeting. And I'd also like to thank Mia, if I could, not individually, but as a representative for students throughout the district. It's important to remember that students have a voice in our education system, in our school district. And sometimes, the vast majority of times, it's a very intimidating situation for a student to come to that podium and make their comments. And we strongly encourage it. We strongly encourage communication with the district office and with members of administrative staff in their areas of expertise. And I really appreciate the fact that you were able to step up this evening and have your voice heard. That being said, we do need to move into agenda item 15.01. We will be conducting an executive session. So we need a motion to enter an executive session for the purpose of conference with an attorney involving pending or imminent court action. I should also mention that after this motion, we will adjourn to executive session, but we will be returning to our seats for the passing of a resolution in case you really want to stay around and be here for that. All right. That being said, a motion to move to executive session, please.
So moved, or second.
Call the roll, Bart.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mr. Byrd?
Yes, and we shall move to executive session.